Cool. So before lunch, we were trying to recreate the blink tag that we have recreated with web components, just with plain JavaScript. And right now, we want to do the same tag, same behavior, but using Polymer. So let's do this. Let's solve this problem. So on the left side, I have my FCC blink tag. And I have my element definition. I have all that. So let's create a Polymer element. And let's do this. So the first thing is import Polymer, right? Otherwise, the Polymer object is not going to be available for us. So our components, Polymer, polymer.html. Cool? Awesome. So now let's create this tag, FCC blink. Let's put some content. And let's define our element. So how can I register an element with Polymer? Is. So this is the contract that Polymer decided to introduce. So this is how you define a custom element. Nice. Now we can just start attaching some functions. So as Bob noticed, this is an object, right? So we can just start attaching functions over here. We can put the attached one, function, and then we can run some stuff. Let me just check if this is working or not. Back to the browser. Okay, it's running. So basically what I'm doing is just move this content, this one to the other one. So when attached callback is fired, this is what I'm going to execute. When detached is fired, this is what I'm going to execute. And also I need to define the toggle visibility function. Just pretty much this. Right? Just gonna do that. Okay. So you might be wondering, okay, what's the point of using Polymer? We're doing the same thing. Is it just a shortcut for attached callbacks? What's the point of this framework? Why should we use this? And now we're gonna take a look in what Polymer can help us with. So we have declared our component. So we register our component. We are calling functions, like those functions are being triggered from the lifecycle callbacks. But one thing that I want to do with this element, with the FCC element, is adding some attribute and accessing this attribute on my element, right? So I just want to pass some value to interval, and I want to change this if there's a valid attribute. So how can we declare properties using Polymer? So Polymer has an object called properties, and the way you configure it is like you create this object, and inside of this object you start putting what are the properties that you want. And what Polymer is going to do, it's going to match the property name with the tag name, And if one changes, the other is going to change as well. And we're going to see this in a second. So imagine you have this, my element, you have some attribute foo, 1, 2, 3, that's the value. Then you can just create a property called foo. You can describe what's the type of that element, what's the value, the default value. And when the user declare an attribute like this, the foo property in this object is going to be overwritten and defined as 1, 2, 3. All right? So this may sound like, okay, no big deal. We're going to see the value of this in a second. So let me just do this piece of code. Just going to import this other element, my element. I don't even need to import this. It's just on this page. Importing Polymer. So I'm defining a property. Property name is foo, and I have some definitions for that. Just gonna run this, check it out. So I have this property available on my element, and if I want to change the attribute, if I want to change all that, this property is going to be updated as well. We don't need to query like get attribute, get the attribute, and then change it in our object and do all these things. And there's a lot of things that you can put in on this property definition. We're not going to jump into the advanced stuff, but there's a different notation that you can write instead of describing the type and telling what it is. Instead of describing the value and putting the value, if you don't want some default value, there's a different way that you can write it. So you can just say properties like foo, it's a string, and bar, it's a number. So the default value is going to be an empty string, or number, I guess it's going to be 0 or something like that. Just a different way of writing if you don't need a default value. So now, what we are going to do is define an attribute called interval for our blink element. And first, what I wanted to do is do this for this element with just plain JavaScript. We're gonna create a new attribute. I want to set this to like this, and I want to change this value over here. So I just want you to do this and see how can we solve this with just plain JavaScript. Okay?
Yeah.